A New Mexico state representative has been arrested for defrauding the United States government. Tonight on Rational Lunatic Television, coming to you as always, from yours truly, Rational Lunatic himself. Before we get started real quick, as always, if this video goes past 10 minutes and you're on TikTok, jump over to YouTube. You can catch the full content there. My Patreon is now also up and running. You can also catch pretty much all my content there. But members only for $5 a month. You can also get my Not Safe for Life content. It's still about corrupt officials doing real heinous things, but it's stuff that I can't really, or I don't think I can talk about on other platforms. So it's for members only. You kind of have to want to know. I think you should, but if you do, just strap in, because there's some stories that make you want to go out and hurt people. It definitely makes me sometimes. But with that being said, hit that like and subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can get notified every time I drop a new video. And let's get started into this one, shall we? It's definitely a good one. This report is coming directly from the United States Attorney's Office, District of New Mexico. Read to you by yours truly, of course. A former state representative and their friend have been charged for a fraud scheme. Albuquerque. A former state representative and her longtime friend are facing federal charges for a long-term scheme to defraud the U.S. government. Cheryl Williams Stapleton, age 66, of Albuquerque, and Joseph Johnson, aged 72, of Chantilly, Virginia, are scheduled to appear in federal court for an initial appearance on April 9th, 2024. The indictment alleges that from about July 1st, 2013 through June 30th, 2020, Stapleton used her position at the Albuquerque Public Schools, APS, as director of the Perkins Project and Career and Technology Education, CTE, coordinator to direct approximately 40% of APS's non-personnel CTE funding to robotics management learning systems, robotics, a company owned and operated by her close and personal friend Johnson, for use of and support for the CyberQuest software in APS's classrooms. Stapleton reviewed and approved robotics invoices and directed other APS employees under her supervision to approve those invoices as well. APS then issued checks to robotics and mailed them to a post office box in Albuquerque. At Johnson's request, Stapleton personally retrieved the checks from the post office box and deposited them into the robotics bank account. In return, Johnson provided blank checks for the robotics business checking account. I do apologize. I know I'm struggling a little bit. I got brand new contacts, put them in. They're not working like they're supposed to, so I took them out, and my eyes are already kind of blurry to begin with. I have pretty bad astigmatism, but putting them in and taking them out a couple times, now my eyes are a little bloodshot. So I'm struggling a little bit reading, but I promise we'll get through it. Bear with me. I'm doing my best I can, and thank you for being here. Alright, let's continue. Stapleton used the blank checks to write approximately 233 checks from robotics for her own benefit, totaling approximately $1,152,506, or 35% of the funds APS paid to robotics specifically. Stapleton wrote about 60 checks totaling about $286,722, $286,772.20 from Robotics to S. Williams and Associates, a company Stapleton owned and controlled. So they're just using the school's funding for, an electronic or robotics kind of thing, and sending that money to her buddy who owns a robotics company. And then he's writing blank checks for her, and then she's taking the money out of some of the money that she wrote from the school to go to his account. She's writing checks to take some of that money out of his robotics account and put into another company's account that she owns. So if she says, like it said, over $1 million, she sent him, and then she took like a portion of like 200 and something thousand of that out and put it in her own company. So it looks legit. And they did this for a long time, so it must have looked legit on paper for a while, and they finally got caught. So, but let's continue. Stapleton wrote about 56 checks totaling about $313,123.48 from Robotics to Taste of the Caribbean and Albuquerque restaurant that Stapleton owned. Oh, they had multiple. They just had multiple companies, not just one. They didn't just own one apiece. They owned multiple that Stapleton owned, and her family members operated. Excuse me. Stapleton wrote about 104 checks, totaling about $479,960.86 from Robotics to Ujima Foundation, a non-profit entity that Stapleton and Johnson operated and controlled together. Stapleton wrote about 11 checks totaling about $72,649.16 from Robotics to other parties providing goods and services to Stapleton, including for a remodeling of Stapleton's house. So yeah, they were sending money from the school to Robotics, basically blank checking it, like, how much do you want? And then she's like, well, I want half. But she couldn't just send, $1.5 million to his company and then take $750,000 out, right? So she had to take increments out in small checks and send it to multiple companies, because it would look suspicious if he got a fat check for his company and then he sent half of that to some other company. So she broke it up. Like, seems good on paper. On March 26, 2024, a federal grand jury returned an indictment charging Stapleton and Johnson with 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the United States, 13 counts of mail fraud, 1 count of conspiracy to commit money laundering, and 5 counts each of bribery concerning programs receiving federal funds. Stapleton is additionally charged with 1 count of fraud and false statements and 9 counts of money laundering. Quote, New Mexicans deserve public systems that serve them and public servants who are honest. I think our entire country deserves that. Effective and worthy of our trust, said U.S. Attorney Ubalez, I don't know why it sounded like a question, said U.S. Attorney Ubalez, quote, fraud against the government is just a fancy way to say that someone is stealing your hard-earned tax dollars. Oh, you mean it's not the police department this time? Public corruption is a fancy way, I think I just read that. Oh yeah, no, I didn't. Public corruption is a fancy way of saying that they abuse your trust to do so. When public officials steal from our pockets and from our children, we will restore your faith in our public system through vigorous investigation and zealous prosecution. I think you got a lot more work to do to restore our faith in our system. Quote, rooting out public corruption remains one of the IRS's criminal investigation's highest priorities, said Carissa Messick, acting special agent in charge, IRS Criminal Investigation, Phoenix Field Office. Quote, today's indictment underscores our commitment to work in a collaborative effort with our federal partners, promoting honest and ethical governing at all levels, and prosecuting those who allegedly violate the public trust. Quote, this former lawmaker and educator, along with her friend, are charged with cheating the most innocent of victims, Albuquerque school children. More like their parents, I think. No, I guess all of them. As well as America's taxpayers, whose hard-earned dollars fund vital education programs, said Adam Shandling, Special Agent in charge of the U.S. Department of Education Office of Inspector General's Western Regional Office. OIG Special Agents will continue to work with our law enforcement partners to aggressively pursue those who seek to enrich themselves at the expense of our nation's students. America's students, their families, and taxpayers deserve nothing less. Quote, violations of public trust by public officials, a position of trusted authority, is a true cancer to society. They talk a big game, don't they? Our citizens have the right to expect that public officials conduct themselves in a fair, honest, and impartial manner. Standing in defiance of public corruption is a fundamental priority for the FBI. Yeah, the only corruption that's allowed is government corruption. But you gotta be higher up in government. Said the FBI, Albuquerque Special Agent in charge, Raul Buhanda. There is no level of acceptable corruption. We ask anyone with information regarding such matters to contact their nearest FBI field office or resident agency so that we can bring them to justice. You go, girl. If convicted, Stapleton and Johnson both face 20 years in prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. U.S. Attorney Alexander M.M. Ubalez, Carissa Messick, acting special agent in charge of IRS Criminal Investigation, Phoenix Field Office, Raul Buhanda, special agent in charge of the FBI Albuquerque Field Office, and the U.S. Department of Education made the announcement today. This was a few days ago. The IRS Criminal Investigation Phoenix Field Office investigated this case with assistance from the FBI Albuquerque Field Office and U.S. Department of Education Office of Inspector General. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jeremy Pena is prosecuting the case. And we'll end it by saying an indictment is merely an allegation. All defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. And we all know that's not quite true. But maybe we don't. My opinion, what's yours? If you made it this far, you've made it to the end. Thank you so much for being here. I love each and every one of you. I hope you guys are having a wonderful evening. I work nights, that's why I'm doing this video. Well, you don't know what time it is over here. Anyway, it's like 1 in the morning, but I work nights, so this is my daytime. So yeah, if you're here, I love you. Thank you so much. Keep your head up. Don't miss the next video. And until the next time, stay wild.